Hey, what's up? Here is the Math Entrance Test 13 Plus, that's for Year 9, and here I'll just give you a brief explanation what actually skills you need to have in order to pass this test very successful. And also I'll give you some tips about which strategy to apply here. Alright, so this video is specific for one of my friend. He's going to get into Sevenoaks School, and so other guys who are actually my students, they want to go to St. Leonard's School, and I decided to give some common tips and just common typical problems. So here I'm just going to cover them and we start. Okay, so first is about without calculator. There's no calculator paper, and here without calculator, please try to figure out some values. So the first typical question is to simply evaluate or calculate without calculator, calculate. So that's the typical questions. And so in most cases you'll be given sort of fraction. So the first I can consider like -7, so probably minus, let's say -3 and over, let's say negative 5. Okay, so just calculate. So here is the tips how you work with fractions. So first of all, you work with numerator is the top one, and then you try and divide by the bottom part. If it's without calculator, so actually the answer should be very obvious. Okay, let's try to work out. So keep in mind about the rules. So if you have double minus before negative, so you have minus and -3, so how to expand that? You just simply keep in mind that double minus will give you always plus. So you'll get -7 plus 3 and you divide by -5, okay? Because it's without calculator, so you need to be able to cancel the fraction or somehow come to the decimal. So the clue here is get the integer as the result or decimal. So that's the hint here. All right, so let's calculate -7 plus 3. You're actually doing 3 minus 7, and the answer is -4. So finally, you've got the fraction -4 on top, -5 in the bottom, and you simply cancel minuses. So you've got 4 over 5. Now just remember how from 4 over 5 to get into decimal. So to decimal, you need to get your denominator 10 or 100 or 1000 and so on. So you're thinking about which number to multiply. So obviously it's 2, so you multiply the top and the bottom by 2, you'll get 8 over 10. So that means your final answer is 0.8. So that's why it's without calculator. So also the typical question might be about percentages. So that's again in section evaluate calculate. So typical as like the nearest first numbers and nearest first problems. Let's calculate 15% and 1 over 2. So basically 15% 1 over 2 of, let's say, some number, I don't know, 300 pounds, for example. All right, so how to work it out? Obviously, if you know that percentage is the same as the share, so that's the same as the share or fraction, so what do you need to do? You just simply need to convert percentage into share or the fraction. So basically convert, that's the first step. So convert. All right, so how to convert? You just simply taking 15 and 1 over half. You first convert into normal, like fraction. That's 31 over 2. And because this is still percentage, right? In order to convert into fraction, you need to divide by 100. So that's the typical way how you need to work out. All right, so what we're going to have, we have 31 over 2 and over 100. So I don't recommend to multiply, so leave as it is. And then in order to apply the fraction, so simply you're applying this fraction to your number. So your number is 300 pounds. So you're just simply taking this fraction and multiplying 2 times 100, and simply applying to, okay, what is simply applying to your your number. Okay, so you just simply do what is that? Doesn't work. That's weird. Okay, I have no chance to make a mistake or error. Okay, so are you just multiplying? So one more time and just scratch it out, and one more time. So 31 over 2 over 100 is simply multiplying by 300 pounds. Okay, so now it's time to remember how you multiply a number by a fraction. You just simply multiply the top by your number and leave the bottom part as it is. So now, instead of like first multiplying the numerator and denominator, you actually looking the chance to cancel. So you have 300, in the bottom part you have 100. So what are you doing? You actually cancel, right? All the zeros, all two zeros, and you left with 3. So you now taking 3 times 31, or 31 times 3, and you divide it by 2, and finally you should get 31 times 3 over 2. So what are you doing right now? So there is actually, it doesn't matter how you do. For example, you take 93 and divide by 2, and now you're doing like 19 plus 3 over 2. That's how you need to do mentally. So 90 over 2 is 45, and 3 over 2 is 1.5. So you convert into decimal. And finally, you've got the final answer for that as 46.5. So this is probably a long way. If you want, so actually, but this is, you know, the very accurate way and without errors, because you see all the numbers. You can waste like some, I think it can be done within a minute, definitely. So you can get your 2 marks for that. But actually what you also can do, you can try to calculate like 1% from 300. So I'll show you alternative way how to cope with percentage. So the same question. So 5 and 1 over 2 as percentage, and try please to find it out of 300 pounds. So you can find 1%. How much is that? You simply dividing your 300 pounds by 100, right? In order to know what 1% is. So that's 1% simply means that's 3 pounds. Now you've got 15 and 1 over 2. That's another way. You just simply multiply it by 15 and 1 over 2 as a percentage. So, or, you know, it's just 15%. That means 50 times more, right? So 15% simply 15 times more than your value in pounds. But you also have 1 over 2%, so it's half of that. So half of that means 1.5 pounds. That 1 over 2% represent. So in order, if you combine that, you'll get 15 times 3. You'll get, so 45 pounds. And on top of that, you need to add 1.5 pounds as well. So, and finally, you've got the same answer, so 46.5 pounds. That's the same as you got on the previous step. So just highlight and just compare. All right, so let me try my erase. Oh, it's weird. Why it doesn't work? It's a razor. Okay, so let's move on next. So that's percentage task. That's probably you simply apply as a fraction, or just looking for first 1% and then populate to another, you know, percentage number like 15.5. Okay, so how to work with, how to multiply fractions if the one is like proper fraction, let's say 3 over 8, and you multiply, and let's say 3 and 1/2, so, or 1 over 5, no, 1/2, 1 over 5, let's take for example. So how to cope with that? So keep in mind that you need to convert into improper fraction. So this is the mixed number, right? So this is the mixed number. So you need to convert into improper fraction. While this fraction is okay, it's normal proper fraction. Okay, that's proper. So 3 over 8 times 3 and 1, 5. So what actually you doing? You just take 5, multiply by 3, and add 1. So that's the steps. So 5 times 3 is 15, plus 1 is 16 over 5. And now you see, do your multiplication if it's without calculator. So what you need to do, you just need to cancel. And finally, you need to have like good answer. So that's the tips. So that's why, first of all, you just canceling. Never multiply first. Just try to find a way how to cancel. So you've got 2 here, and 3 times 2, you'll get 6 over 5, right? And 6 over 5, you just simply convert into decimal by multiplying by 2, and you'll get 12. So I can write, so you can write, so 12 over 10, which is 1.2. Okay, so this is the way how it works. All right, so 1.2, that's the final result. Okay, so let's move next. What about the powers? If you have like something squared, cubed, and so on. So for example, let's say you have maybe, let's take 11 minus, let's take 14, let it be cube over, let's take, so square root of 9. So you might have square roots here also, and let's say times 5 squared. Okay, so you need to again evaluate without calculator. So you have 11 minus 14 cube over. So first of all, you're thinking about operations to simplify the top and the bottom parts. Here you'll get negative 3 cubed, right? And over, so square root of 9, square root of square number, you'll get always your just number that if you multiply by itself, you can get the square, you can get an under square root expression. So just bear in mind that square root of the square number is the same as simply you need to guess the number so that the square of this number is under the root expression. So in this case, it's 9. So you're thinking about a. So what you need to raise to the power of 2 in order to get 9 is 3, obviously. So that's why a is 3, and that's the result of the square root. So the result is 3. Okay, so next, 5 squared. So you can write as 25, but I'll write 5 times 5 instead, because sometimes you might be, this is the chance easily to cancel later on. So don't multiply, don't like come to the big numbers. Later on, you'll always be canceling. So just remember, that's the tips. Okay, so negative 3 to the power of 3. So what it means, like if you have, you can remember the rule. If you power, that's the power, while negative 3 is the base. So that's the power, and this is the base. And just remember, if you're thinking about odd power, it always keeps the sign of the base. So if it has like 3, 5, or any odd number, you always stay with the minus. So it never change into the plus. And indeed, I can prove you quick. So negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3. So those two minus will be cancelled while this is left. So that's why negative number. Okay, so simply 3 multiplied by itself 3 times. All right, you've got negative 3 and cube, which is 27, but I write like negative 3 times 3 times 3. Yes, you need to stay with final minus. Okay, so here 3, 5, and 5, and here you just can easily cancel. Okay, so what do you have also here? You've got negative, finally, negative 9 over 25. But if you need to evaluate as decimal, what do you need to do? You just need to come back to your decimal. So in order to get 10 or 100 or 1,000, so what are we going to get here? We are going to get 100. So we multiply simply by 4 each part. So the top one is 36 and the bottom part is 100. So final we'll get negative, so 1, 2, 0.36. That is going to be the final answer. All right, so That's how we covered general like mental arithmetic without calculator. That's about percentages and typical questions like valid. So one more time, guys. Tips. No, like later on you'll cancel the fraction. If you have fractions, so please don't multiply the top numbers and the bottom numbers. Leave them as like prime numbers or just factors. Later on you'll cancel, like in this case, in case of big numbers, that will take a proper effect. Okay, so next about the powers again. So keep in mind that the odd power keep the minus of the base is not, which is not changed, so it stays here, while if it's even power, it will always get a positive number in the end. And about square root of any number, so make sure you can do that. If not, just go and revise how to take the square root. Okay, so the second part, and this typical second part of their, so that's second part, like second type of problem. That's typical equations. They might be linear, so we just categorize them as linear. For example, let's say 5x minus 3 equals, let's say, 8. That's typical linear. They might be linear with repeating variable or repeating unknown. So linear with repeating unknown. For example, what I'm saying about, I'm talking about this sort of equation, like 5 times x minus 3 plus 2 equals, and on the other side you'll get also x, for example 3x minus 1. That's with repeating unknown. So first we just simply try to figure out. There might be more complicated cases, but I'll show you how to solve that. So in case one, non-repeating variable just already stays alone, so you just need to leave it alone in one side and all other numbers transferred to the right side. So here you'll get 5x and negative 3 you transfer to the right side, so you'll get 8 plus 3 here. So in order to get x, you calculate the result here, it's 11, and you simply divide by 5. If you want, you can convert into decimal by multiplying by 2 the top and the bottom part. So here you will get 2.2 as the decimal. Okay, I've just multiplied by 2. So here, how to work out. So you're just thinking first about simplifying. You need to expand the brackets, so you start expanding. And on the right side, you have 3x minus 1. Then you try to collect all the variables on one side. So 5x minus 3x. And here, all the numbers you collect on the right side. So you transfer negative 15 becomes positive 15, minus 2. So here, and still minus 1. So keep in mind that this minus, when you transfer, becomes the positive 15. Okay, don't forget this rule. So then you stay as with single variable here. So 5x minus 3x is simply 2x. That's why it's just one single unknown. It's not repeating. So here you just simplify 15 minus 2 and minus 1, 15 minus 3, you'll get 12, from where x is simply 12 over 2, which is 6. Alright guys, yeah, hope you got it how to do, but there might be more complicated questions. So mostly they might be connected with, fractional. So if you have fractional equations, they cost more. So fractional equations, they might be linear and they might be non-linear. So for example, I'll show you several ways how to cope with that. So for example, this is the first, 3 over, let's say, 2x minus 1. So what do you need to do? You see two fractions, right? You see two fractions, what do you need to do? The fast track and the tips here is just to crisscross multiply. This is mnemonic rule, you can use that. And simply what you're gonna do, so you have 2 times 2x minus 1, you multiply 2 by the bottom of the other fraction, and the same for 3, you multiplying by x plus 1. Okay, so here's how it works. And now you came to standard equations, so where you can simply solve as this. Okay, 3x plus 3. So from where you've got x, and on the right side you've got 5. That's the typical answer and typical way how to cope with that. So cross multiplying, right? Multiplying. That's the tips, and that works pretty fast. And also you might have quadratic. So many students struggling with quadratic one, but however it's if you know the way, it's really simple. For example, let's take that. So you have, let's say, x squared plus 4. Let's take maybe, oh, I forgot it. So x squared plus 4. Okay, let's take it first. Let's take it 9. Okay, so you have standard quadratic equations. So how to solve? You simply see that if x squared is already a single variable here, no like any x's, other x's, so you just stay with x squared, and so you can work as if it's just new variable t. So you mark as t equals x squared. Now let's see at the structure. T plus 4 equals 9. So what you can see here, guys, it's just simple straight line equation, so linear equation. That's linear one in terms of t, linear in terms of t. So if you see the structure, there is no problem for you. So how to work? T values just 9 minus 4, and you're left with 5. Okay, so next you come back to your what was t marked, what states for, it states for x squared, so you simply say, okay, x squared is 5. And now you just remember that you need to take plus minus, so that's the key idea. So two solutions for quadratics, you need to have two solutions. This is at most, but you know, there might be the case when you have only one. So for example, I'll consider that. So x is simply plus minus square root of 5. Because square root of 5 is not possible to evaluate for a calculator-based paper, you'll be given like how to work out square root of 5, okay? And you use calculator, you probably can, you know, you'll be asked to round up to 1 dp. So, but if you're not asked, just that's the final answer. If you need just to give as the third, so this is given as a third. Third means the square root of the number that you cannot work out. So that's the answer. But if you need to like calculate, so please guys, just use calculator, press square root of 5, and let's say you need to round up to 2 decimal place. So right now I'll show you what it means. So you take in, so my calculator gave me the answer plus minus 223,606 and something, okay? You just need to round to 2 decimal place. So what it means, here is the decimal point, right? So decimal place, you just cut and say, okay, here are my 2 digits after the decimal point, right? So you take in 2 digits after and say, okay, if it's 5 or more, you round up this digit up to 4. So the final answer will be plus minus 2 and 24. Okay, that's the final answer if you use calculator and if you need to round up to the decimal place. So by the way, I'll give you a hint or tips what significant figures means and how to work with that. For example, significant figures is just all the digits you count from the left side of your number, from like the highest digits up to the lowest one. So let's say you need to round to 3 significant figures. So what's the difference? Or let's say, okay, maybe, yeah, let's say 3 significant figures because of my malfunction of the eraser, so I cannot use that here for some reason. Okay, so anyway, to 3 SF, so your number is simply plus minus. So you now taken, let's write one more time. So your number is 223,667. So now you taken from the very beginning, that's the first digit, second and third. So you cut up to 3 digits from the very beginning, so you don't take into account like decimal point. You don't start from the first digit after, you start from very beginning, 1, 2, and 3. So that's your cutting edge, and you again do the same as you did here. So 5 or more, you just round up. So in this case, plus minus 224. That's your actually 3SF, the same as 2 to the p in this case. But that's the tips for you guys, and that's the advice how to work out. So if it's like less than 5, let's say instead of 6 there were 4, so you just simply cut the rest part and just erase. Okay, you just erase this part at all and do nothing with 3. You leave your answer as 223. Okay, so you got it, I hope. But there might be like more complicated, like you know, quadratics. So for example, let's say x squared plus 3x equals 0. So what do you do in this case? Simply, you need to know how to factorize. So factorize means to, you know, find the common factor, because this is sort of, oops, the way back, yeah. So this is sort of, you know, variables, numbers, yes. So in this case, you need to know how to work out with numbers simply and with variables. So how to factorize algebraic structures. So algebraic structures. So structures. So what are you actually doing? You do the same as for numbers, except for you looking for common, like the same variables, the same letters. In this case, you see that x here and x here, they are the same. So you just simply take it out because of its common factor, and you, oops, yes and no, actually no, x squared. Wow, I'm really like mad about this, it doesn't work. Okay, so you factorize, right? So you split your x squared as x times x and plus 3x. So you take out x as the common, right? Now here's this x as the common. What's left? You left with, you didn't touch, so x and plus 3. Okay, now you just remember, when you have two factors and the result is 0, obviously each of the factor might have a chance to be 0, either first one or either the brackets. So just simply write in x equals 1 and x plus 3 equals 0. So x1, first solution, x0, and the second one is -3. So this is the way. It seems to me that general quadratics you're not beginning, and this is the less likely. Because we were like practicing with this sort of questions, how to factorize. Now let's consider the third type of questions. So this is algebraic expressions or algebraic structures. So algebraic structures and algebraic expressions. So what you might do with that? So for example, you might be asked to multiply, like simplify. So the main question here is to be able to simplify. So simplify the following algebraic structure. So in the first one, let's consider something like pretty obvious. For x times, so times means like sometimes I use the dot. So times, let's say 3z, okay? So how to simplify? If you know, you just operate with normal numbers as with numbers. So you take in 4 multiplies by 3, it's 12. And what about letters? They are different, right? If the letters are different, you just simply don't touch them. You put like 12xz and you do nothing with them, okay? However, what if you have something like 4x and let's say multiply by, let's say 15x cubed. In this case, what are you going to do? You do the same with numbers. 4 times 15, it's 60. And what are you going to do with x and x cubed? You simply take and use the rules for indices. So that's about that rule. This is about rules. For example, you have x to the power of n, you multiply by x to the power of m. So what it means, you have n x's here, and you multiplying by, this is n axis, and you multiply by m also axis. So they're actually identical, so m axis. So in total, you still multiplying, right? So in total, how many x's in total? Obviously n plus m. So in total, you'll get n plus m x's. So how you write this? You just simply write as x to the power of n plus m. And this is sort of the proof of this property. So keep in mind that if you have algebraic letters which are the same but in different powers, you simply leave your base x and you add the top powers. So actually the power here is imaginary 1, but we don't write. So mathematicians don't use to write the powers, so they just write 1 and 3 and just add them. Okay, so instead of 1 they don't write anything, but you need to bear in mind that this is 1. So in total you've got 4. That's the same, might be not also multiplication, it might be division. For example, let's take more complicated structure like 4x times y cubed and over, let's say, 12x cubed and y squared. Okay, in this case, you will probably use division rule for index or indices. So for division, you simply represent as the fraction. So in this case, it's a fraction, but generally it means division. So how you work it out for division, you just simply take n minus m as the result. Okay? For example, I can give you some examples how to work with division. Let's say you have 3 squared and you divide by 3 to the power of 5. So actually, if you use this property, you'll get the following. So you take 3 unchanged, right, according to the rule, and you simply subtract n minus m, so 2 minus 5. Finally, you'll get 3 to the power negative 3. But what it means, you might ask me. Okay, so I can give you the answer. So if you write as this, you can say that we can get 3 squared, so 3 squared here, and still multiplying by 3 to the power 3. Okay, if you cancel those two identical numbers, so 3 squared and 3 squared, basically 9 over 9, you'll get 1 over 3 cubed. And look what we found out. We recently discovered new properties for the powers. So that means that if you have 3 to the negative 3, it simply means it's 1 over 3 cubed. Alright? So that how it works. If you have generally negative, let's say, so 3 cubed. If you have negative power for, let's say, for x, some negative power n, it means simply that you need to flip your number and make a reciprocal. That what is called reciprocal number. So you just have to flip it over. That's how it works. So that's why no matter whether you're going to use the difference of the powers or just simply like trying to cancel and try to leave with where you left with number. Okay, so that's why let's try to do here. So first of all, I cancel 4 and 12. I'll get 3 in the bottom part. So I also can cancel, so 4 and x cubed. So I prefer cancel way, and I'm left with x squared. So I'll put x squared in the bottom part. So what about the top? So of course I cancel it completely, and instead of 3 I'll get just 1. So that's why I'll get y in the end. Okay, you see how it works. Also, you might be able to do, simplification when you have something like you add in first on the top and then divide it by something. For example, let's take 15y squared plus, let's say, 10y squared, and also you need to divide, let's say, by 5y. Okay, so what are you going to do in this case? So just simply first try to add similar terms. So similar because they contain the same letters. So no matter, instead of y squared, you might use any other variables like t and t. So you'll get 15t plus 10t. You'll get obviously 25t, but instead of t, you use y squared. So you simply get 25y squared. Okay, and over 5y. Now you can cancel because this is completely like division of two just expressions. Okay, so 25 also over 5, you left with 5 here. So the final answer will be 5y. Okay, so you see how it works with algebraic structure and expressions, how to do that. And this is simply the way actually that every single student need to do. All right, so main significant tips were given to you guys, so try to apply them. We covered only 3 types of questions, and I think we need to stop here for a while. Just try to get some past papers from different schools. It's very it's basically highly recommended to take, if you're just applying to one school, guys, try to take as many past papers as you can from different schools. Try to mix them up, try to have a mixture of good exercise. And first try to go topic by topic. For example, you take in the first topic and say, okay, I'm going to evaluate today, and I simply will be doing this all day long. So you grab all different tests. Probably your tutors might give it to you, like other agency, educational agency, or if you buy your own, so try to surf in the internet and try to find the past paper samples. That's pretty a lot. Okay, and actually what you're gonna do, just try to figure it out using so trying to use all of that. Okay guys, that how it works, and that simply means that, well, I don't know what happens. So sort of today is sort of like malware, okay, in my mobile phone. So that were really useful tips. So try to use them. Try to use that shortcuts that I give to you, how to cope with fractions, how to work with equations, like what types of equations. That's plenty of information, and you were given that for I don't know, about 30-40 minutes. It's really useful information. So we'll go next. So next up, we'll go through different estimation procedures, like how to estimate numbers, how to cope with them. So then you can use calculator to check your estimation and actually, compare by which percentage it's different. So that's about estimation techniques. And also we go to trying to use, standard form and how to work with that sort of information. All right. So that's not the end. So keep in touch. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to share it to all other friends who actually struggle with this sort of problems, so that they might easily get those useful skills and strategy and techniques. All right. Thank you for attention. So peace out.